Good morning, everybody. This is Teresa with Stampin' with Teresa. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and today I'd like to make a simple card with you all. What we need, I will put a list of all the supplies and dimensions in the description box below, so don't worry about that as you're watching. Just sit back, enjoy, and just kind of watch the card come together. I'll point out a few things here. We're starting with a base of crumb cake cardstock. We're using a piece of the 2019 to 2021 in Colors Design Series paper pack, the 6x6 pack. It's two-sided. There's a couple different patterns. I'm using a single sheet. This is one 6x6 sheet that's trimmed in a way that we're going to use the entire sheet on this card. So the first thing let's do is let's just glue this layering piece to the card base. I'm just using some multi-purpose liquid glue. This is my favorite adhesive. It's pretty forgiving when you lay something on and it isn't centered quite perfectly. The only thing is it can be a little bit messy, but that's okay. I just keep a baby wipe nearby to clean off my fingers as needed. Stamping is not the world's cleanest hobby between the ink and the glue. I'm just going to go ahead and press that down. I have this panel that we're going to stamp on. I cut this out of Whisper White cardstock using the Nested Labels dies. We're going to use Memento Tuxedo Black ink to stamp our turkey image. And I like to use a Stampin' Pierce mat, even when I'm using the red rubber, because I just feel like it helps give me a better impression. And I recently refilled my ink pad, so I'm just going to stamp that off to make sure it's not too crazy. Okay, and we'll just give this a quick stamp. You don't want to press too hard, but you do want to give it some firm pressure. Hold it down for a couple minutes to allow the ink to transfer from the rubber to the paper. And gently lift off. Oh, he's a little crooked, but you know what? Turkeys are nutty, so I'm not even going to worry about that. We're just going to go with that. I'm going to give him a quick little dry. And today we're going to color him using some Stampin' Blends markers. I'm not going to do any fancy shading, just going to simply do some easy coloring. So what we're going to do is color this guy up. This is the part that takes the longest. I'm using dark crumb cake for the actual turkey body. Get that little turkey neck going here. Get those tail feathers. Just need a really light touch. I'm using the brush end because I like that fine tip, but you really need to just barely make contact with the paper. The Stampin' Blends are great markers. They're alcohol-based markers. And so they don't leave like marker stroke marks. Our Stampin' Write markers leave that. They're water-based, but the Stampin' Write markers are great for other techniques. And coloring of small images is really fine with those as well. Somehow we managed to get away for years with just using those as demonstrators and just users of Stampin' Up! Products. I still have the entire collection and I use it. I love them. But when you're just doing a cute little image like this, the Stampin' Blends do a really nice, quick, and easy job. Some of these are a little bit finer. I'm sorry I have a little bit of a cold, you guys, so I've got some sniffles going on. Got this crazy cold that's causing me to have this like pretty intense neck ache, actually, and it's kind of bizarre, but it'll pass. They always do. Let's see, so we're just about done here with the turkey body and feathers. Get this little area here. I would call it a girl, but I don't think girls have those wattles and like the feathers that splay out in the back. I think that's a male turkey phenomena, but then I could be wrong because I am not a nature specialist by any means. We're going to use the dark mango melody to color in his little beak and his little turkey tootsies right here, his little turkey feet. Again, I'm just using the brush tip and just giving it like almost like little dots, like very light pressure. We're going to use dark Calypso Coral to color in his thing, his little nose dangle. I always thought it was called a wattle. I heard somewhere, I think it was another demonstrator coloring this thing that was saying that it's not a wattle. It's called something else. But I could be wrong because I sometimes fall asleep watching videos, and sometimes, you know, those things just infiltrate your dreams, whether it's true or not. But I didn't care enough to do any research on it. I just like to pass along information that may or may not be true. So I guess I shouldn't have really said anything since I don't know it to be true. But I would call it a wattle, but I'm not sure that's correct. Let's just leave it at that. Okay, I'm not going to color his apron because we're going to do some paper piecing with the apron. So we're going to switch to light smoky slate, and we're going to color the pie tin. It's real easy. And the ribbon on the hat. I forgot to do the buckle and the mango melody on the hat. There. We are going to color the pie in light soft suede. No, there's a lot of coloring here, you guys. We're just about done though. The hard part is almost over, and then we're going to use dark smoky slate for the hat, the little pilgrim hat this guy is wearing. He's so cute. He's just a goofy turkey baking a pie. Alright, so let's set this aside for a minute, and we're going to grab our first piece of the scrap, and we're going to use the gingham side of this, and we're going to ink up that turkey stamp one more time and give it a little stamp here on the side. Give it a second to transfer the ink. Boom. Done and done. We'll set the ink aside for now. I'm going to grab our paper snips and do a little fussy cutting. And I like to leave just a small little, well, you can do it two ways. You can leave a small little border along the edge. Today I'm going to cut tight up against that black side, and I'm going to show you a special little trick to make it look really finished. Let's just go ahead and cut this off. We're going to use that scrap. We're going to punch out some leaves to include for decoration on the envelope and also on the inside of the card. Because if you're making a handmade card, we might as well do the whole enchilada. Make it look fancy and fabulous everywhere. Okay. I love paper piecing, you guys. This is like one of the oldest techniques in the book for stamping, and it has always been among my favorite. In fact, it probably is my actual favorite of techniques when it comes to little images that are like humanoid type of images. Okay, so remember that trick I told you about? We're going to take our black Stampin' Right marker. I always like to make sure it's juicy. And then just go ahead and color the core of the paper so it gives it that nice, really finished look on the sides of the paper. And it will look like, oh my gosh. So it doesn't matter if you mess up on your cutting or not because you've disguised it. So there we go. This is the Stampin' Right marker I was talking about earlier. So the next thing we're going to do is grab our panel with the turkey on it. We're going to get our glue again, and we're just going to lightly dot the adhesive on the back. You don't need to go too crazy. We don't really want it to seep out. And then we are just going to fit this And the glue allows you a little wiggle room, which is one of the reasons why I really love it. And look at this handsome fellow with his little gingham apron on. Isn't that cute? Okay, so let's move on to our next step of the card, which is we're going to use this panel. And this is, I think, just a 4x3. Yeah, it's 4x3. I had this in my, I keep all my paper together, and I had that in a, with my scraps, and I had cut it at one point using a stitched die, or a stitch frame die. Anyway, I'm tongue-tied. So I don't know that that was actually a Stampin' Up one, but basically I just grabbed it. It was the right size that I wanted. But we do have the stitched rectangles if you wanted to trim it out in a die. If I didn't have those in there, I would have just put it in my, just trimmed it on my trimmer and used it without the stitching. Okay, so now we're gonna stamp the greeting here. And again, I'm just gonna stamp this off to the side to make sure I get some good coverage. All right, beautiful. Last time I made this, I was having problems. Sometimes you get the ink around there and you wanna make sure that's not on there. And I'm gonna stamp it right here. Hold that down. We'll give that a minute to transfer. The crumb cake kind of sucks up ink a little bit differently than the Whisper White, so I just like to give that an extra second. Okay, so this looks adorable. So the next thing we're doing is we're going to use our 5/8 inch flax ribbon, and this comes like this, but what I did was I took it and I pulled out some of the strings from that ribbon. I just took a small length that I knew I would want to put around here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to use some standard Scotch tape for this, actually. It's my favorite way to get these things taped to the back of the cards so I know it will stay. And we all have Scotch tape lying around. Well, I mean, I assume we all do. I know I do. I have gobs of it. Okay. So just like that. And then we'll take it around and the other side. And before we tack this down, let's just take one more gander to make sure that, yep, it's straight across the front of the panel. Beautiful. Next, we are going to take some Stampin' Dimensionals. And put them on the back of the sky. And I'm not going to put it above the corners because these are going to kind of hang off the panel and I don't want them to stick before I adhere the panel to the card. So let's go ahead and take off the release paper off the back. Oops, missed those two. That's what I get for trying to do it with a little fistful of other release paper. Okay, perfect. So we will get him straight and just kind of lining up the corners so they're kind of, you know, centered between the top, although I don't think I'm perfectly centered because I can't really see without standing up, but okay, we'll pat that down. That's good. And then we're going to glue this guy down with dimensionals. The reason why I'm not using regular multi-purpose glue is because these things will pop it up a little bit, and so we just might as well use the dimensionals. And who does not love a card with some dimension anyway? I know I do. I go through these dimensionals so fast. Okay, and then we'll get this kind of centered on the card in this layer. Beautiful. And then I made a bow out of that flax ribbon, that Whisper White flax ribbon, and that we're going to pop just right there. I just took 3 more that I pulled out of here and tied it in a little bow. Trimmed the tails just slightly, but it was basically the perfect size. I'm going to use 2 glue dots actually for this. So maybe one will be enough. I was using the burlap trim on my sample card, and it was a little bit thicker, so it needed more than one glue dot. So let's just do this. I think it only needs the one mini glue dot. Perfect. And that is going to have some real staying power. I love it. Here was my sample that we're going off of. And then this is the inside. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue down the inside panel. Center that in there. It's a nice layering size. Beautiful. And then remember how we have that piece of scrap left? We're going to punch that with our leaf punch. And let's actually punch out two of these because we're going to put one on the envelope too. So here's a little bit left, and there's some little pieces. Sometimes what I like to do is take one of the mini punches and punch out little shapes, just so I don't need to keep a big thing, but I keep a little dish nearby my station. You can see that I did that. I made some butterflies, oops, with that. So I just keep a little dish that I punch little shapes out, so I don't waste the paper, because it's such pretty paper. I hate to just toss it. All right, and now let's just give this just a little, oops. I was trying to avoid that situation. Okay, that came right off. All right, so, and just gently pat that down. So we give the inside of our card just a little something. And then I am going to use this envelope. This was actually a crumb cake envelope that we used to carry, and this is literally my last one that I've had hanging around, and so I'm like, oh, we're just going to use it on this card, but otherwise I would be using Whisper White envelope for this. So I'm going to take that, and then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm also going to stamp the sentiment, the same sentiment, just give thanks on the outside. So when it arrives in somebody's mail, I mean, they already know it's not a bill because of the size and whatever, but might as well make it cute and extra delightful. And there we go. And now we are finished with this simple, quick card that will just delight any recipient. And it would really go well for a guy or a lady. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Again, check the description box below for the dimensions and the supplies. And if you like this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to subscribe, I plan on making very regular content from now on, and I would love to have you as a subscriber. And leave a comment below if you have questions or just want to say hi. All right, thank you. Have a really great day.